I love watching anime and reading manga since I'm a little kid. And the moment I started learning Japanese, the thought of consuming manga and anime in Japanese without English subtitles or dubs has been just a big goal. And I think I'm not alone in this. But up until now, I've been torn between immersing in anime or manga for study purposes to get better, and then watching anime in English subs for enjoyment. And that's because native content in Japanese maybe wasn't too difficult to understand, but the whole process of watching it was too difficult to actually enjoy it. So, this is the state I'm in, state A, and I want to get to state B, which is watching anime or reading manga and actually enjoying it. So I decided I will be going into a full immersion situation with manga, especially with this manga. And that's without watching any other shows in English besides it. So no English subs anime for enjoyment or English manga for enjoyment. Just full immersion into this. That being said, GTO is quite challenging, probably a bit too difficult for me now. And I think upping the difficulty step by step is a smarter option, but I'm too stubborn for that, and I'm really hyped to read GTO. And GTO is kind of the only manga that I have start to finish. So yeah, for me GTO, if you're kind of looking to do the same thing with immersion into manga, then I would recommend starting with a manga that's a bit easier and then just going step by step with the difficulty. I do think that's more efficient, but if you're like me and you have that one manga that you really want to read, I guess just go for it. It'll be less efficient in the beginning, but if you enjoy it, it's probably worth it. That means today, the 22nd of August, is the start of reading a double page of manga until it's easy or enjoyable. Now, a double page doesn't sound like a lot and maybe doesn't even sound like enough, but for now it is, because in GTO it takes me around 5 to 15 minutes for a double page, depending on the difficulty. But I'm sure at the end, when I'm done with like the whole volumes, this is volume 1 and I have volume 1 through 25. I'm sure the last double page from volume 25 is going to be super easy. So I think in the course of this challenge, and with me obviously progressing and upping my skills, a double page is going to be easier and easier to achieve, or quicker and quicker. But for now, a double page a day is the minimum. I can always do more if I want, but definitely not less. Now, I've been a bit naughty because I've already started reading GTO, but only around 7 or 8 double pages. And it's been really challenging, which is a good thing because it just means there's a lot to learn still. But let's now have a look what actually was so difficult for me and how I worked around those difficulties. Hands down, the biggest challenge for me up until now has been the super casual or even like slangy street Japanese language. That slanginess kind of has a huge impact on all parts of the conversation in the manga. Like vocabulary and grammar, they just shorten things or they leave stuff out. Then there's also just the use of proverbs or even just vocabulary that you've never seen before and that you probably won't ever see in a textbook. And another part that's been really kind of insightful is the importance of suffixes like dane or dayo or daro and all these things. They, in a big text like in Genki, they kind of get overpowered by the amount of text that you have. And then the nuance of those suffixes, it's still there, but it's smaller. But if you have like a speech bubble in a manga and it's filled just with one word and the suffix, then that suffix has a really big impact on how that speech bubble or that one word is meant in the whole context. So having those down pat is pretty important, I think. And the kind of biggest problem with those slangy challenges, doesn't matter if it's kind of omitting parts of grammar or vocabulary or using words that don't really exist in a dictionary and stuff like this, is that it's very difficult to kind of research. You can't just put it into Jisho or into Google and it'll give you the perfect thing. And that's the annoying or the time-consuming part, I guess, is that you often have a word or a kind of grammatical point in front of you that has been casualized, and finding that on the internet has actually been the biggest challenge. My resources to still get past those challenges are still DeepL and Jisho and just Google search in general. Now, by far, the biggest help has been ChatGPT actually. And if you give AI enough context, the translation and the nuance it explains to you is by far the best I've ever worked with. And that by far has helped me the most and has also been the quickest. One thing I've kind of observed with myself is that I'm always trying to get the perfect meaning out of every sentence, out of every speech bubble. And that's not the best thing to do because the time investment goes up super high and the reward goes down quite low. So if you're really stuck on something and you just don't think you understand it 100%, you don't need to spend like 10 plus minutes on a speech bubble just to perfect its translation. You can just move on. If you understand the kind of rough context it plays, then I think you're good and you're just better off moving on and working through the rest of the manga. Because if I would kind of like strive for perfection with every word in GTO, then this book on its own would probably take me months. And I don't think that's very smart to do, because you can always finish the book, learn a lot, and then just reread it and get more meaning out of it and perfect it that way. I think getting stuck on every speech bubble is not the best way. Now, in conclusion, just the start of reading GTO has been quite challenging for me. And if you want to try reading manga, it might be challenging for you too, but I think it's worth it. And the biggest difficulty has been kind of the slangy casual Japanese, because the process of translating and understanding it can be quite time consuming. But I think it's really worth it, because understanding stuff like this is exactly what isn't included in textbooks like Genki 1 and Genki 2. So this is where immersion really comes into play. And I think after finishing just that one book alone, I've made a huge amount of progress. And I will definitely keep you updated on my progress, and probably make a video once I'm done with volume 1, see how much I've learned, and then see how quickly I can continue reading. Maybe I can up my speed so much that getting until chapter 25 won't take me like 15 years. But anyway, stay consistent, because I will. Double page every day, and let's see how it goes.